So today we are going to explain for you about pH meter. pH meter, what is pH meter in general? I will talk about pH meter, but before talking about it, I will cover the theory behind pH, what is pH, and then we can go to the lab to see how we can calibrate and use the pH meter. And then at the end of this session, I will give you some home messages to take some notes. That is really important when you deal with the pH meter. Okay, so first, a pH meter in general is an electrical device that is used to measure the acidity or basicity of an aqueous solution. And I need actually to explain first what is pH in theory. So basically, you know that there is an acidic solution. Solution can be acid or base. And this acidic solution, when you put it in an aqueous solution, let's say for the acid we can give it an HA sign for the acid. When you put it in an aqueous solution, it will hydrolyze to give you a proton, or we call it a hydronium ion, plus A minus. And in case of base, you will have we can give it a B letter, and when it dissolved in water, it will be hydrolyzed to give pH plus and OH minus. So in this aqueous solution, in the acid one, you will have the hydronium, or we call it the proton, and in the basic solution, we will have the OH minus. Now, the amount of OH minus or the amount of H3O plus is actually the representative of acidity or basicity of that solution. In chemistry in general, practical chemistry, we use something that called the molar concentration of H3O plus. It's the molar concentration, and this concentration used actually to describe the amount of mole present per liter of this ion. But since this amount is practically very, very low, so we tend to use the pH as a good practical indicator for the acidity or basicity. And what is pH? pH is actually the minus logarithm value of the hydronium or the proton inside this solution. So this is actually what pH means, or how we can define the pH. It's a minus logarithm of the proton that is present in that solution. And usually pH has actually a scale or a value starting from 0 to 14. And the midpoint here, for example, is 7. When you have a water, like a pure water, has a pH value of 7, and we call that neutral. But when you go for something, if you check something and you found that it has a pH higher than 7, then it's a basic. And if it has a pH lower than 7, then it's acidic. So this is actually the theory behind pH.
Nice.
Okay. Any questions?
May I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
How does this pH meter work in order to measure the pH?
That's a very good question. So how the pH meter work? In the pH meter, as you will see on the lab, the pH has an electrode. This electrode actually will measure the electrical potential of the solution. So you have a solution, and it will measure the electrical potential of that solution based on the amount of the hydronium over the proton. Then it will be connected with a box that will show you the pH value on the screen. So it will convert the electrical potential into pH, and then you can know the pH of that solution. Now we can go actually to the lab and see how we can practically use the pH meter. So now we are in the lab, and we are going actually to check how to use the pH meter. First of all, before you enter the lab, you need to make sure that you are having the safety equipment. You need to have the gloves, lab coat, eye goggles, because your safety first. Okay, so this is the pH meter, as you can see here. Make sure you start actually by pressing the power button. Then it's ready here. You make sure that everything is connected, the electrode, other wires, everything is fine, and the pH meter is ready. Now, before starting measuring your pH, you need to calibrate your pH electrode. And we do that by calibration with already prepared known buffers with the three pH values, starting from 4 to 7 to 8 to 10. So how we do the calibration, we take like the calibration tube, Falcon tube, and we take the electrode. This is the electrode. You should keep it all the time like immersed in the storage solution to prevent it from dryness. So this is very important. You need to remove the parafilm here. You take the electrode and then you start to first before you start, actually it's very important. So even it's in the storage solution, you need actually to rinse it with some distilled water. So make sure to rinse it with distilled water to prevent contamination. Then you start measuring with the first sample and press calibrate. You wait for some time until the reading is steady and stable. So you hear like a beep sound, which means that the calibration is done, and the value is 4, which means it's calibrated at 4. Then we need to go to calibrate it with the second buffer. We put it back, rinse it. Then we need to use the second buffer, which is 7. So we put this back, we take the second buffer, we take the electrode, rinse it, and then we put it into the buffer and press calibrate. So as I told you, you need to make sure that electrode is immersed in the buffer solution and is stable. And once the reading is ready, it will be stable and fixed. Yeah, and you can see here, yeah, that like the reading is stable now, which means the calibration is done with the second buffer. Okay, let's go for the third one. We need to clean it. Then the final buffer, which is the one that has a 10 value. You do it again. You rinse the electrode with distilled water. Then you calibrate and wait until the reading becomes stable and steady. Now it's stable and it gives a beep sound at 10 value, which means your pH meter now is calibrated with the final buffer solution. You rinse it, put it back to the storage solution, and then you close your buffer. The most important thing that you need to make sure that your buffer are fresh and expired, so they can give you a really good measurement. Now the pH meter is calibrated and it's ready to be used to measure different sample that you want. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
So, how often do you have to calibrate this pH meter? Do you have to do it every time you measure it, or once in a while?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, you need to do the equilibration and like the calibration each time you do a measurement. So at the beginning of each day, or when you are planning to do an experiment, it is much better and much recommended to do like the calibration to make sure you have an accurate measurement. Yeah. Now the machine is ready to do like analyze any sample that you want, and yeah, this is actually how to calibrate, and I can show you now how to measure pH sample. Yeah.
I have this buffer. I made it like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Can I like
Do you want
measure?
to measure it? Yeah, I can show you how to measure it. So, if you want to measure it, now we have just actually finished the calibration, and we can measure it really easily. Once we know that our machine is calibrated, you take like the electrode from its storage solution, and you rinse it with few amount with distilled water, and then you put the electrode into your sample. You make sure like the electrode is immersed with your solution. Then you press read, and then the machine will start to read and measure the electrical potential, and it give you. And as you can see that now the reading is stable, and you hear a beep sound, and the pH is 7.5. So it looks like your compound, your solution is slightly basic. It's higher than 7. And then you rinse the electrode again with distilled water. You bring it back to the storage solution, and then you are done with your measurement.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.